9 plants that drain swollen ankles, all of them growing in my grandmother's yard before water pills existed. What she made for free is what Americans now spend billions on every year. I still keep the same 9. By 5 in the afternoon, the shoes don't come off easily. I pull at the heel and my foot swells against the leather, tight and warm, water sitting just under the skin. The porch boards hold the heat through the sole of my sock. I sit where the shade starts at the edge of the hollow and hear the field behind the house go still. Eastern Tennessee, July, the ridge still radiating. Dandelion at the edge of the yard, same as always. I've been walking past it for 20 years. Every year, Americans spend billions on prescription water pills. Every year, the ankles are still swelling. In waiting rooms, in recliners, on porches up and down these ridges. Furosemide is the water pill that became the default answer the moment a doctor noticed swollen ankles. More than a third of adults over 65 deal with this every summer. Those two facts live side by side, rarely examined together. They should be. Here's the part nobody in a clinic has ever told you. There are 2 entirely different reasons your ankles swell, and they need 2 entirely different answers. A water pill pulls fluid out of your body through your kidneys. It doesn't touch the reason the fluid left your blood vessels in the first place. The plants the Appalachian grandmothers used addressed both ends at once, not because they were guessing, but because they were paying attention to what actually worked. And that's not just theory. 3 independent traditions documented this same pattern before anyone had a laboratory. Before I name the plants, I need you to understand what's happening inside the ankle. When summer heat hits, the blood vessels near your skin open wide to push heat out through the surface. That's how the body cools itself. But when those vessels open up, pressure inside them rises. The fluid portion of the blood, not the red cells, not the proteins, just the water, gets pushed out through the capillary walls, the walls of the tiniest blood vessels, and into the flesh around them. Gravity pulls it straight down to the lowest point, which is your ankles and feet. Stay with me. This is the part that explains why a water pill can't fix it. Now, in a young body with strong circulation, the lymphatic system, the body's internal drainage network, catches that fluid and returns it. In a 65-year-old body, the muscles in the calf that push blood back up with each step are weaker. That drainage network has less capacity, and the compounds in the blood that normally pull fluid back inside the vessels are lower than they were at 40. The fluid sits. By 5 o'clock, the shoes don't fit. Before I go any further, there's one question that changes whether any of this is right for you. Are you taking amlodipine for blood pressure? If so, this applies to you. It's one of the most prescribed pills in this country. Approximately 1 in 6 people on that medication develop swollen ankles as a direct side effect of the drug itself. Not the heat, the pill. Before you steep a single leaf for this problem, that is a conversation with your doctor. Because no plant addresses drug-caused swelling the same way it addresses heat swelling or circulation swelling. I want you to know that before we go further, more broadly, if you have a heart condition, high blood pressure, kidney disease, or are taking any prescription medication, speak with your doctor before you use any of these plants. The herbs in this episode work on blood vessels, fluid balance, and circulation. That's exactly where prescription drugs for those conditions also work. The interactions are real, and your doctor needs to know what you're adding. There's one more warning coming later in this video. A single sign that means stop everything and get to an emergency room. I'm not telling you what it is yet, because it won't make sense until you understand how these plants actually work. So stay with me. Now, let's look at the 2 approaches my grandmother used. The first approach is what a water pill does. Move the fluid out through the kidneys. The plants that do this: dandelion leaf, nettle leaf, goldenrod, corn silk. Increase how much your kidneys push out. Dandelion leaf is the one with a human study behind it, a documented increase in how often and how much you urinate after drinking it. Goldenrod was named for the early stage of dropsy. That was the 19th-century word for what we call edema, by Felter and Lloyd in King's American Dispensatory in 1898. Those were practicing physicians, not herbalists. Corn silk, from the most Appalachian crop there is what you save from the summer harvest and steep fresh. It's been approved by Germany's Commission E for urinary support. Nettle leaf reduces swelling and irritation in the tissues alongside its water-pushing effect, and these mountains have never been short of nettle. The second approach is where my grandmother was ahead of the pharmacy by a century. Instead of pulling fluid out after it's already leaked, these plants seal the walls that let it leak in the first place. The capillary wall is sealed between each cell the way weather stripping seals the gap around a door. So long as that seal holds, nothing gets through. A protein the body produces, scientists call it hyaluronidase, breaks that seal down when the vessel comes under pressure. The gaps open. Fluid pushes through. Aescin, the active ingredient in European horse chestnut, blocks that enzyme. The seal holds. The fluid stays in the vessel. That compound was tested in 6 careful tests with more than 500 people, and the finding was 32 milliliters, roughly 2 tablespoons, less fluid in the leg compared to doing nothing. In one of those trials, it performed the same as compression stockings. The same. Read that again. An herb matching a medical device in a study of over 500 people. Quick check. When's the last time your shoes still fit easily by 5 o'clock? Butcher's broom, a Mediterranean shrub that Germany's Commission E has formally approved for leg swelling, contains compounds called ruscogenins, natural firming agents, that tighten the vein wall from the outside, reducing the vessel's tendency to let fluid seep through. And then there is stone root, Collinsonia canadensis, which grows beneath the tall trees in the Appalachian forests right here. Named for how impossibly hard its root is, even dried. The eclectic physicians of the 19th century, the same tradition as Felter and Lloyd, found it the most useful native plant for conditions where blood backs up in the veins. Hemorrhoids, varicose veins, the blood that pools when the vessels have lost their grip. It's the most Appalachian authentic vein tonic in this episode, and it has no careful test behind it. I'm telling you that plainly. The tradition is documented. The way it works makes sense. The trial doesn't yet exist. Those are 3 different things. Appalachian blueberries, the ones that ripen on the hillside every July, contain the same anthocyanin compounds as the European bilberry, the pigments that give blueberries their deep color. Those compounds were tested in animal research and found to protect the capillary walls that keep fluid from flooding the flesh around them. That's early animal data, not yet confirmed in humans. But the blueberries are here. They're ripe right now, and the grandmothers ate them by the bowlful without knowing the science. And were right to do it. Hawthorn rounds out the 9. Appalachian families used it as a heart tonic, and the heart matters here. When the heart's output is reduced, as it often is in an older body, fluid backs up in the legs. Hawthorn supports the heart's pumping efficiency and reduces the resistance the heart works against. For summer ankle swelling in a 65-year-old, circulation support is not separate from the problem. It's part of it. Most of what I share on here, my grandmother never wrote down. She just knew. Every week I put up a new one. Another plant, another preparation, another thing that almost did not make it through. If that matters to you, stick around. I would love to have you. 3 independent traditions arrived at these same 2 approaches, water moving and vein strengthening, from entirely different starting points. The eclectic physicians of Appalachia, Felter and Lloyd among them, named Dandelion, Goldenrod, and Stone Root in their 1898 dispensatory for dropsical conditions. European herbal medicine, formalized through Germany's Commission E, approved horse chestnut and butcher's broom specifically for the leaking blood vessels and leg swelling that builds up over time. Traditional Chinese medicine named this pattern in summer heat dampness, as a distinct complaint treated with formulas designed to transform and drain accumulated fluid, including ZZ, a water plantain root that promotes urination and clears the heat that drives the fluid to pool. 3 frameworks, 3 sets of plants, the same swollen ankle on the same hot afternoon. 3 independent traditions arriving at the same problem is not coincidence. It's repeated observation, that kind of result. An herb performing on par with standard medical treatment. is rare enough that it's worth remembering as we go. Now let me tell you how to prepare dandelion leaf. This is the one with the human study, the one that grows at the field edge without being asked. What makes dandelion leaf work dissolves in water. That means hot water pulls it out. Fat doesn't. A leaf tea is the right preparation, not a tincture, which is an alcohol-based extract, not a capsule, not the root. Bring water to 200 degrees Fahrenheit. That's just below a full boil. Pour it over the leaf. Don't boil the leaf directly in the water. Sustained boiling drives off the lighter parts and is harder on the plant than a careful steep. Cover the cup or pot while it steeps, because what matters rises in steam if you leave it open. Use 1 to 2 teaspoons of dried dandelion leaf per 8 ounces of water. If you're using fresh young leaves from the yard, the same ratio applies. Steep it covered for 10 to 15 minutes. Drink 1 to 3 cups across the day. You're looking for increased urination within 2 hours of the first cup. More frequent, paler. That's it working. Here's the error that ruins the preparation. Many commercial dandelion products contain root, not leaf. The root is oriented toward liver and gallbladder support. It's not the diuretic preparation. They're not interchangeable. If the package doesn't say leaf specifically, look at what was used. Dandelion root will often be labeled for liver support. Dandelion leaf will be labeled as a diuretic or urinary tonic. Know what you are buying. Unlike a prescription water pill, dandelion leaf is high in potassium. It partially replaces what it removes. A prescription water pill strips potassium along with fluid, which is why the muscle cramps follow and the supplement bottle appears on the counter alongside the pill. The dandelion leaf does not give you that problem in the same way. That's simply a difference worth knowing. Felter and Lloyd checked the color of the urine and the frequency of trips to the outhouse. They called it a tonic and a natural water pill, useful in dropsical diseases, their word for this kind of swelling. Those are physicians recording what they observed in practice, not an herbalist writing a pamphlet. You can look it up yourself. King's American Dispensatory, 1898, still in print, still findable. For horse chestnut, I want to be clear, don't make this at home from seeds. The raw seeds contain a toxic compound. The evidence. The 32 milliliter reduction, the compression stocking comparison, is for a prepared extract with 16 to 20% aescin. That's what you purchase, and it's available. It's European horse chestnut's contribution to this episode. Our yellow buckeye grows on the same ridges and belongs to the same plant family, but the testing was done on the European species. I won't claim otherwise. Here's a question worth actually answering. When did you last look at both ankles side by side? There's one sign that means you put the plants down and call someone. It shows up in one ankle only. I'll say that clearly before I close, because it's the only thing in this episode that can't wait. I want to be clear about what these plants do and what they don't do. Dandelion leaf makes you urinate more. Horse chestnut prepared extract reduces leg volume in conditions where the tiny blood vessel walls are leaking. The 32 milliliter finding is real and hasn't been reversed. Stone root, blueberry, and corn silk have traditional and early stage evidence behind them, and I've told you exactly where each one's evidence stops. Together, these preparations address the swelling in both ankles that arrives with heat, eases overnight, and returns by afternoon. These preparations don't treat swelling in one ankle only. If only one ankle is swelling, not both, just one, and especially if it's warm or tender to touch. That's an emergency room situation. A clot in the leg is life-threatening. The plants in this episode are for the swelling that comes and goes with summer heat, not the swelling that arrives in one place and stays. They also don't address swelling from heart failure, kidney failure, or liver disease. They don't address swelling that comes with shortness of breath or chest pain. Those are medical emergencies. If you're already on a prescription water pill, don't add these preparations without telling your doctor. It can throw off the potassium and sodium balance in your blood in ways that are hard to predict. If you're on warfarin or apixaban for blood clots, Hawthorne requires a conversation with your pharmacist before you use it. I mean that. By 5 o'clock, the hollow holds the heat. The porch boards are still warm. The dandelion is still there at the edge of the yard, same as it has been every July I can remember. Felter and Lloyd wrote down what it did in 1898. The grandmother before them didn't have their book. She had what her mother showed her, and her mother's mother before that. The morning after the first cup, the shoes came on easier. The fluid had moved. The ridge was the same. The knowledge was enough. What my grandmother grew is worth preserving. If your grandmother kept something similar at the edge of her yard or reached for it in a summer like this one, tell me in the comments. The plants are still here. The knowledge of how to work with them is more fragile than the plants themselves.